Good evening. Welcome to Fertility Talks. I'm your host, Mary Wong, and I'm the author of Pathways to Pregnancy, founder of Alive Holistic Health Clinic, your acupuncturist and fertility mentor. Tonight, I'm super thrilled to have Boafoa here with us again. And actually, I didn't notice the time frame. I think it was 2018 that we did our first talk, right?
I think so.
And now here we are in 2021 in the midst and hopefully the end of the pandemic, really, but we'll see about that. And we're just super thrilled to have you because you came, you were actually agreeable to being interviewed, and you were my first person that I interviewed that was in the middle of having fertility struggles and coming out to speak about that. And I thought, gosh, that is brave. And because a lot of people keep it so private, and you were able to do this. And now we are couple of years later, and you have your baby. So so for those of you who have not listened or seen Boafoa in her story, it's live post number 54. You can find that on YouTube at Meet Mary Wong. So brilliant. I started to listen to it again today, and gosh, she had such great words of wisdom and really encapsulated the real struggle, and then how you managed to normalize it a bit for yourself so that it was not just that hyper focusing of the fertility challenge. It was brilliant. So now coming to it from the other side, I want to hear back from you. It's like, if you had to do it all over again, would you have done anything different? What is the advice that you want to give people? So first of all, welcome.
Thank you. It's so nice to see you again.
Oh, so lovely to see you.
So what advice do I have? So I'll answer the question a little differently. Like, what would I have told 2018 me? And I think, fertility treatments, and I did multiple rounds of IVF, and I did multiple rounds of IUIs, and I had 2 surgeries.
So you know what?
Yes.
Let's be very specific, because what is multiple? Because you may know that some people have done multiple as well, and so people love to hear their stories.
Sure. So I did 2 IUIs. I did 3 rounds of IVF, like 3 retrievals, but 2 transfers. So we have some embryos that are still frozen. And I had 2 surgeries, one major to remove fibroids. About 16 fibroids were removed, some very large. And I had another surgery to remove a polyp. So a lot of different fertility challenges.
Over a long time. So let's talk about the time frame. Let's start with the age and then how long you tried. So we're kind of, doing an overview of your story again, but totally, guys, go back and listen to Boafoa, because it's really cool to see the transformation that you are now, right?
So I started, our total journey was about 5 years. I started at age 33 and thought I would get pregnant. No problem. I thought that maybe I had really painful periods, so I thought there might be some endometriosis, but I wasn't certain of it. So started trying, it wasn't working out. So sought the help of a fertility fairly early on, at around 6 months of trying, and detected fibroids, but the diagnose, and I had low AMH. But
do you remember the number at the time? It's kind of a long time ago now.
It's such a long time, and it's so funny because, like, if you'd asked me this 3 years ago, I would know every number, but now I don't. Like you said, and I have no idea. I can't even remember. Like, you do kind of get to a point where, however your journey ends up, where you do forget that kind of stuff. Like, you move past it.
You move past it, and sometimes it's probably like you want to forget it.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, I have a new life. I just want to leave that all behind. So, and because you've left it behind, so I really want to acknowledge you for showing up tonight, because you could just say, that was my past life, and I just want to leave that behind. Bye-bye. right?
Yeah.
But you're not. You're giving back and you're contributing to this community of women and couples who are struggling right now. So I really, really want to honor you and thank you for, taking the time as your baby's sleeping to be here with us.
Thank you. And, I felt a race against time when I was during my journey, because speaking about the AMH, I don't remember the number, but each time they checked the AMH, it kept going down. And I knew like that just gave me a lot of stress because it felt like literally I could see the time, like my biological clock ticking right in front of me. So we started with IUIs, and the doctor was very open about how she didn't think it would work, but it was up to us to try. So we did twice. And then we
But you
did
had
our,
to, like, you
yes,
can't just not, right?
I didn't feel comfortable jumping right to IVF. Like it just felt like I should do the what I thought was the right first step. They didn't work. And then we did our first IVF round, which was really scary. I didn't know what to expect. It's stressful going to the clinic every morning. It's stressful worrying about your numbers and whether the follicles are growing. And it was just really stressful and wasn't really a pleasant time in my life. It didn't work.
Mhm.
And I was at the point where I'm like, I'm never doing it again.
So you thought.
So I thought. And it was a very low point, and I just remember saying to my partner, like, we're not doing this again. We need to find another path to parenthood. This isn't going to be our path. But time, like the benefit of time, I
Mhm.
took about 6 months where we didn't try. We just like kind of took the summer off. And I remember talking to you and just like, I'm just gonna enjoy life and then come back to it. Came back to it, and I made the decision, we'll try one more time. So we did it again. And it was at that point that my doctor suggested surgery. And so we did egg retrieval, and then I decided to do a fairly invasive and serious surgery.
So what does that
And
mean? Was that a laparoscopic surgery or an actual incision
it
surgery?
was an incision
Right.
surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Abdominal surgery. Yeah.
abdominal surgery, 6 weeks off work. It was a big commitment of time, and it was really scary. And it was hard because, for those of you that are navigating multiple opinions, the fertility doctor was of the view we didn't need to take everything, all the fibroids out and the cysts on my ovary. She didn't feel that was completely necessary. The surgeon said, take it all out. And I ended up listening to the surgeon, but you kind of just have to trust your gut.
Hmm.
And that, back to your first question, like what advice? You have to at first advocate for yourself, and you also have to trust your gut, because often you're right. And I really feel strongly that I think for in my circumstance, if I didn't get the major surgery, we wouldn't have gotten pregnant so quickly after the surgery. That's my perspective. I might be wrong, but that's how my gut feels.
Well, I mean, that's substantial. What did you say? 15 fibroids?
Yeah.
Right. And here's what we know. I mean, when you get pregnant, you have more hormones in your body. So it would trigger the growth of the fibroids. So we don't know if it may or may not um, impede your ability to conceive life, right? Like we don't
Right.
know 100% sure, but 15 is a lot. As I recall, they were sizable.
They're sizable. They were sizable.
Yeah.
So trusting your gut, like again, my fertility doctor was like, are you sure you want to do this? And I thought about it, and that's what felt right for me. And it was my decision ultimately. And I made that decision. I owned that decision.
Absolutely. So now going back, and everybody loves specifics, right? Because
Yes.
yeah, if anyone going through fertility, they're like into the details.
Yes.
So with the fibroids, were they in the uterus, in the wall of the uterus, outside the uterus? Do
They
you
were
remember?
all over, all three,
Everywhere, all
everywhere,
three.
all three.
And they
So
removed it and from all aspects.
correct. So they remove the ones in the walls and in the uterus. There might be a few that are outside that they didn't remove, but they went in. And so one of the things after post surgery was that I wasn't able to try to conceive for 6 months
And that's tough
because
when you're wanting to try and like, you want to be pregnant yesterday.
yes, but there was concern about we wanted to make sure my uterus healed. Also, another thing that came with the surgery was that I would have to have a C-section. There was concern that if I were to get pregnant and I pushed, it would like the walls wouldn't be able to sustain that. So that was another risk associated with my decision. And when
Now,
you've had to go through, one of the things I had to wrestle with is like conceiving through IVF feels unnatural. Perhaps sometimes like you feel like, why can't I conceive just like, the natural way? And then to have a birth that wasn't going to be a vaginal birth, I struggled with like nothing feels natural or normal about like this whole journey for me.
right. And to add to that, I guess if we were to envision from a young person, a young woman, what would it be like to have a baby? Well, certainly it's not IVF and certainly it's not a C-section, right? That's
Correct.
not what you envision.
Not at all.
So I could just imagine there is some grief around that too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So then here's some fun fact, right? Um, Women of color, there is a high percentage that have fibroids. So then it becomes, well, is everyone going to actually take out their fibroids?
So thank you
So
for bringing that up because that was one of the things that weighed heavily on my decision. I come from a family that is very good at procreating, a very large family with no fertility issues. And one of the things I remember talking to my mom about, she's like, you come from a long line of women with fibroids.
yes,
So, and they've gone on to have multiple children.
yes,
And so, you know, from her perspective, she's like, it might be the endometriosis, it might be something else, but I don't know if it's, when you hear about your daughter having a major surgery, you're just like, hold on a minute. A lot of people have fibroids in our family. They may have babies with smaller birth weights because they're not able to grow, but there's never been a conception issue. So that was another thing that really weighed heavily because yes, women of color, it's very common for them to have fibroids. Absolutely.
mhm. So again, if you are a woman of color, is that what the first thing line of defense, right? Is like, oh, do I just get surgery then? And then bam, we're good. It's like it's not so magical like that, right? And
And then
again, weigh heavily
yes,
on your own gut.
and it took me a while to get to the point where I got to surgery because I
Mhm.
tried IVF without it because I didn't think that necessarily, and my fertility doctor still would say, I'm not sure that was the reason you were not able to conceive. We're not sure.
Well, and that's it, right? No
Yeah,
one knows 100% sure at
correct.
all,
Yeah.
right? And so at some point things all align, and through IVF, through surgery, and acupuncture. We'll just add that in because we're still working on increasing the blood flow into your ovaries and uterus and all that. Now, when you did the surgery, it was between IVF, or wait a minute, was it after all the IVFs, the surgery?
No, yes, it was after all the retrievals. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So that would be the recommendation as well, right? I mean, we're not, I mean, any information that we're speaking to is not medical um, opinion. It's not like it's just what happened here. But typically, the advice from the medical profession now is if you're going to do surgery, do it after retrievals, right?
Yeah.
Was there fear around doing an embryo pickup and having had surgery?
Oh my goodness, absolutely. I was worried about scarring. Big time worried about scarring. Did a lot of acupuncture just to like minimize any impact of scarring, which, I joke that I have a VIP membership to Alive My file is multiple files. I think you've moved to electronic,
We've gone to
paper.
electronic, yeah.
But it was paper and there was like multiple files. But I found acupuncture really helpful for me mentally as well, but also really saw a difference. I did herbs as well. And that also I found made a difference in my flow. Like I had really heavy periods previously. Really, thought that acupuncture helps significantly.
Yeah, with the herbs. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. Thank
yeah.
you. Yeah, that's awesome. So, so from start to finish, gosh, because there's a lot of break, right? Between surgery and then recovery. And then when you did the first IVF embryo transfer, did that one work?
It did not work.
Okay.
And then I took a break. I took a 6-month break just to get my life together. And I still did acupuncture, but I just what we weren't actively doing any fertility treatments because I just mentally wasn't ready for that again. And then I did 2 retrieval rounds back to back, knowing that I was going to do surgery. And I also, for me personally, I knew that if I never wanted to do um, IVF stimulations again, and I was, wanted to have multiple children. So I wanted to do 2 rounds of stimulation rounds back to back so I could hopefully bank embryos and then
Yes.
not have to worry about doing stim ever again.
Yes. Yeah. Fingers crossed for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, that is so wise too. And so I guess it would be really amazing for you to speak to this 6 months off thing, because some people listening to this, they're like, are you crazy? Right? Because the notion is every passing month, your ovaries getting older, your eggs are getting older. So how did you process that you took, like, how did you know to take the 6 months off? Like, of course, in my perspective, it's like, you go, girl. Absolutely. We need it. It'll help you set the stage up when the time comes, versus I'm desperate and I need to be going on this mission every month without fail.
So one thing that I learned a lot from you and another clinician at your practice was like the idea of mind body and the relationship between mind body, and when your body is stressed, like what it does, like how it just doesn't perform the way you perhaps want it to. And I knew that my mind, I was really upset and disappointed and, a little bit depressed. And so I knew that my body could not do what I needed it to do. Having low AMH, the first round, I was a kind of a poor responder. And so for what I needed my body to do, I needed to get my head right and my body right. So I did a lot of exercise. I did a lot of just like the things that fill my cup. And
Yes.
so just to recharge and rejuvenate, because IVF can take a lot out of you. So I
Yes.
wanted to fill my cup up again and also just reflect on like, why am I doing this? Just to make sure that this is still what I wanted. And then my next 2 rounds were much better than my
Mm,
first, and I think I credit that to the time off just to, like, reset my body
yes.
and just
Love that.
get stuff out of my system as well, get the drugs out of my system, and so I was able to start again.
Such wise, wise words, because again, we want to get women out of that panic, fear, worry mode, which is not so conducive and not as optimal anyway. So, like, how would you share this with a woman to, like, if they're in that angst, right? Because that journey, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of angst and frustration, and then that need, that desperation of wanting to keep going every single month.
I remember just that first cycle, um, like, the numbers weren't like, they weren't the numbers weren't going, like I didn't have many follicles and they weren't growing very well. And I just remember like being like in distress. Like I just can remember sitting there with the nurse and she's showing me the results and I'm like in distress. And like so much so that she got the doctor to come and talk to me during a regular daily like monitoring visit because I think she was like, this person needs help. And I remember the doctor saying to me, if you want, like, if you think it's best that you just stop, we just stop this round, maybe we should talk about that because your body will not do what you needed to do if you are in this state. And I just knew that if I ever did it again, I needed to be in a different mind space. Like, what IVF is magical and it's amazing medicine, but what your body also needs to participate in it, and your body cannot do what you want it to do when you're in fight mode. And I just
Totally.
felt like I was in fight or flight mode, and I was crazy. Like I just remember thinking like I this nurse sees so many women and I'm so wild right now that she thinks that the doctor needs to come talk to me. And I just knew that that's not the environment that my body was going to be successful in.
It's so great that you recognize it, and so great that you took the time. And the beauty is that if we look at time, which is linear, but your body wasn't reflective of that because you did better after a passage of time, where technically it should be worse,
Yes.
right? And
My
that's that
AMH
thinking.
was lower the second time around than the third time around. My AMH was lower, but I was in a much better place and I was healthier mentally, I was healthier physically,
Mhm.
and like it would they were much better cycles, progressively better cycles actually.
Which is so awesome to hear. And I love it that you actually said that the AMH was lower and you still did better, right? Because again, we're so tied to the numbers that we really forget about the whole body mind connection, that whole piece. And so it's irrespective of numbers that we can still walk away with baby in hand over time, right?
Yeah.
And trust that gut, and trust your instinct. Sometimes though, it's hard to trust the gut because you don't even know where your gut is anymore. There's just
That's
so
right.
much thinking, so much obsession.
Well, and that's, when I think about the first round of IVF, I couldn't trust my gut because I was just like obsessed. I was obsessed with everything. And I remember a conversation with you where I was like, I need to do more acupuncture. Like we don't want to create like a dependency on this, right? Like, because I just felt like I had to do all of the things to maximize the chance of getting pregnant. And like, I did all of the things and it didn't work. I did everything. If someone
Yes.
had told me stand upside down on your head for days, I would have done that, right? Like it was crazy. Like I was doing everything
Yes.
and it was to a detriment to myself.
Yeah. Well, it was too much. It was an
It was too
overload,
much.
overwhelming. Yeah. And that's always the thing that people ask me the most. What more can I do? And I'm always saying, what can you let go? Right. And now you totally get it. It's like, yes, it's actually about letting go of some things.
Yes. It was completely about letting go of some things and sticking to the things that work for me. Like I'm not a yoga person. I was doing yoga my first round and then it's not for me, but I know like it's good for you. So I was doing like, and it's like, okay, I can't do this time around. I have to find the things. So I was like I remember, um, I hid this from you, so I'll reveal this to you now.
Oh, I love it.
Um, um, I'm a big spinner. I love spinning, and you were like, just like don't do high intensity stuff, and I did. I did spinning during both my retrieval rounds. Like because I loved it, and I didn't go as often as I normally do,
Oh,
but I did because for me
it was a
it
stress
felt
relief.
it was a stress relief.
Yeah, that's okay. And I wouldn't have judged you. Don't worry. Now you can tell me, but I think that's really great. Thank you for telling me now. And I wouldn't have stopped you, by the way. I would have said, just do it because you need to de-stress for sure. But, I wouldn't want you to do like 100 clicks or anything like
Yeah.
that at the
No.
time. You got to do with what the body can handle as well.
Yes. Yes.
So funny. Oh my gosh, it's secrets. Any
Yes.
more juicy secrets? Because this is great. This is a great thing because people will always ask, how much exercises should I do or how much should I not do? So, you're speaking to it. It's like what turned you on was spinning and you kept doing it.
And I did it less, but I did it because it was a stress release for me, and it made me, it gave me something to look forward to at night before going home and doing stim. So
Sure.
like that was for me really helpful.
So in the middle of doing stimulation, you were doing spinning?
I was.
Okay. And how intense were you doing it? Was
I
it just as intense?
No, no, I moved back into the room, so I didn't wasn't in my normal spot, and I moved slower, and I told the instructors that, like, I'm just gonna take it easy for a number of reasons. Um, and I did it, and there was actually another girl who was doing stims at the time as well. She was banking eggs, and we both kind of like we did it. We're like, because she got advice she shouldn't do it, and we're like, we're doing it, and it makes us feel good, and we're gonna do it. So we did.
That's hilarious. Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. I love it. So thank you for sharing that. I think it is so important. You got to do things that you love. And I wouldn't cut that out. I wouldn't. But you were smart enough to actually not go crazy,
No.
right? And you took it easy, but still found joy
Yes.
in the process.
Yes.
That's great. That's a great takeaway. Is there any other takeaways like for people going through this right now?
I guess I would say, I remember reading your book and listening to other podcasts and listening to people who sort of triumph, and they got their family, however they ended up getting their family. And I never, at the time, I was so in it that I never thought I would be where I am with a little one. Like I never thought it would happen to me. Um, but it did. And like however you find however the journey what ends up for you, whoever's listening, just trust like good things could happen, because there were moments where I never thought good things could happen. There were really disappointing moments at the clinic. There were very low lows, like, but surrounded with the right people, right supports, you can get through it, and you will get however and you say it in your book much more eloquently, but however you want to have find your family, have your family, you can have it. And I'm just so grateful to people like Mary. And I think I've seen everybody who works at her clinic pretty much. Um, just one moment that my husband and I talk about, was at the transfer that worked with our little one, and for our little one, and we had this wonderful Tara from Mary's clinic come and do acupuncture at the actual fertility clinic, and she just made everything special. And I could tear up thinking about how
Oh,
amazing she was.
really?
Yes. She just made everything special, and like just really took good care of us after, and recognized it's a really stressful time. And I really believe, like, I just the way I felt after that transfer, and thanks to like her making me feel calm, I at that moment believe that this could potentially work.
Oh,
So I, just trust that the good things can happen. And just, I really hated when people told me to stay positive, because sometimes you just can't.
yeah.
But, when you can try to stay positive, and see the light, because I never thought I would be a mom. There were moments I never thought I'd be a mom. I thought it was just not going to work for me, and it worked for me. So let me be like, I just want to offer hope that you can overcome a lot of obstacles, and find and have your baby however you were meant to have your baby.
Thank you. That was very touching. That's so moving. And before we got on, we talked about, so there's this thing about having the baby, getting the baby, but then there's a little gap. Actually, it's not a little gap, it's a big gap. There's a big gap. We want the baby, we're pregnant, and it still seems surreal. So we're only in the moment, which is fine. But what we want to do is now to also tell women, like, there's hope you can have a child. And then when you're pregnant, there's hope that you will have a baby to term that's healthy. And then we now cannot skip the piece about, we also need to prepare you for motherhood, because that is another challenge as well that no one really expected. And it is a reality. And there is some level of shock towards that too. So I want to start initiating more of that conversation for the future. But, just start by knowing that there is hope and you can be mom one way or another. And dad, by the way, we can't forget that.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Like, so heartfelt for sure. Like that you took your time, and you probably want to sleep. How old is your baby now?
9 months.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
9 months.
Yes.
I remember counting. It's like, okay, my journey was 6 years old. So when my baby was 6 years old, it was like, I can't believe that it's the same amount of time of trying to have you, and now you're here, right?
I know.
So now she's actually above that time. It's like,
yes.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So there's some markers here for you, but
yes.
And it certainly makes you a different kind of mom when you've had fertility challenges, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll talk again, and I'm gonna turn this off. By the way, guys, again, if you just tuned in, this is Boafoa's story of hope, and I hope you really got something out of it. And if you haven't seen the other episode, go on to at Meet Mary Wong on YouTube and find her post, which is number 54. Okay, and reach out to us, DM us, tell us what you think, tell us what you want to hear. And if you want to reach Boafoa, then you can comment, and you can find it, right? Okay. All right. Thank you so much.